All right, let's talk more about variables. So lots you can do with them. You can manipulate them, you can reassign values. So I just want to talk about some of that. So I've got a cost variable here. I've got a value set in it. Let's say we wanted to calculate a total that included some shipping. So there's a couple ways we could do that. We could declare a separate variable. I'll do that first. So I'll declare a total variable here. And I'll say it's equal to whatever the cost is plus whatever shipping is. So notice when you're working with variables, when you're assigning a value, basically what you're saying is, so here I say cost equals this. In this case, we're saying total equals all that. So when you're assigning values, it's going to take everything over here and set it into that variable. So it's going to do all this math first, and whatever the result is, it'll put it into this total variable. So notice it's going to take whatever's in cost, add $3.99 to it, and then that will be assigned as the total value. Let's echo that out, and then we'll talk more about that. All right, so we got 24 or whatever that is. So it's more than just the 20. Obviously, something got added to it. So that's one way of doing that. Let me show you another way that some programmers might prefer. We could have done this. Rather than use another variable, we could have added $3.99 to it this way. Some programmers will do this. There's nothing wrong with it, right? So we're just reusing that same variable, and we're saying, okay, take whatever's currently in it, add this to it, and assign that as the new cost. So if you're trying to avoid using a lot of different variables, you can do it that way. It's up to you however you want to do it. So again, this will take the current cost, add this, and then whatever the result is, again, it's just going to assign it back to whatever variable's over here, which in this case is cost. Let's go back to that total example. Let me make one more point about that some beginners get a little confused about. So if I said, the total should be cost plus $3.99, you don't want to put $20.99 plus $3.99 here. You want to take whatever's in this variable. That way, if you're not sure, or if this might be $400 or whatever it might be, you don't want to write it literally here. You just want to use whatever's in the variable. So it's important when you see, take one variable and add something to it. You don't want to take what's in it. You just want to take whatever that variable's name is and then do the math. That way, whatever value's in it will get updated properly. So that's some examples of working with variables. Let's look at some string variables and talk about some things you can do with those, because that's important to understand as well. So I'm going to declare a first name variable here. And I'm going to declare another one for last name, and I'm going to talk about what you can do with strings and how you can manipulate those some. So what we just did before was, they were numeric variables, so you can do basic math to them, add, subtract, etc. Let's do first name, last name here. So if we wanted to print both the first and last name, or if we wanted to sort of create a full name variable, I want to show you how we might do that. So I'm going to create a third variable here for the full name. And I'm going to use that concatenation character, which is just the period. Doesn't really matter what it's called, it's just that period. So I'm going to take the first name variable and then do dot, and then add the last name to it. It's not going to do exactly what we think. So I'll talk about this in a second, but let's print this out and see what it does. So it does roughly what we probably thought it would, but notice it's got no space in between. So it just stuck the last name variable up against the first name variable, right? So we have first name, we have last name in a separate variable. So we've taken that, and remember this just is a way to take one thing and put it against another. We saw it when we printed in an echo statement. So this is going to take first name and stick last name right up against it. And the result is going to go into this full name variable. So the result we're seeing here is the new value for that full name variable. But you might say, well, how would we get a space in there? We could just put a literal space inside quotes and then attach that to the last name. So notice now we're going to take the first name, attach a space. So this can't just be empty quotes. You want a space in there, and then attach or concatenate the last name to that. So when you're working with strings, that's just one way to work with variable values. You can stick strings together or put a comma in here or whatever you needed to put in there by just using that little period to attach one thing to another as much as you like.